everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Pickin' and Puttin'. I'm reporting from the Golden State Studios in honor of their championship and their impending being multiple champions again. Yeah, there you see what Liberty Bill's here joining me today. We've been on a sabbatical over the last month, and we're back. So we'll be around hopefully this summer as much as you can find us. Well, Billy, you got any shout outs for today? Anybody you want to shout out? I got a few.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to EJ Liddell, who's from Belleville, Illinois by St. Louis, went to Ohio State. And I'm hoping the Chicago Bulls or the Charlotte Hornets land him in the mid-teens of the NBA draft. I think he's got a Draymond Green, PJ Tucker kind of tough guy, but he can hit the three, he can post up, he can rebound, he can defend all five positions. Chicago guy that started in the Big Ten. That's my guy, EJ Liddell.
Well, that's a good one. I got a few here real quick. I do a shout out to Matthew Fitzpatrick, the Englishman who won the United States Open. He hit a shot on 18 out of a bunker, which I think stands with Sandy Lyle from the Masters years ago out of the 18. That was just an unbelievable shot. And if you go back and look at it, you'll find he took a 7-iron and gripped down, way down. He normally would hit that 200 yards as a 150-yard shot. Unbelievable shot. The other one I wanted to shout out, a couple, Serena. I think this is bon voyage, so I think I'm rooting for her at Wimbledon. I hope at least she gets to go a long way. Nick Faldo, adios, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Trevor Ullman's coming in there. And then lastly was just came around today. Well, there are a couple. We can say goodbye. Hello, Bruton Smith to heaven. He's a NASCAR famous guy that passed away today. And Tony Siragusa.
Whoa, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, he passed away today and at 55, and that's kind of sad. He was kind of the face of the Ravens and Fox. And in fact, the Ravens lost a linebacker, 25-year-old kid passed away. So for you folks in Baltimore, if you're listening, our hearts are out with you.
I got to back up to Nick Faldo. Is it weird that the Wyndham Championship that's going to be his last tournament, right? I would have thought he would have gone off on like a U.S. Open or I don't know, something big.
I think he's just in a hurry to get to Montana.
Fair enough. Well, and I wonder if he's done talking about the LIV Tour and if he was planning on retiring and if he doesn't want to do that conversation for the next year, I'm out.
Well, let's just throw a little tidbit out there. 50 million comes his way to be the LIV Tour face announcer. His boat will change it. Plus,
might be a short retirement.
Hey, that's getting us off on another topic altogether. Brandel Chambly, I told you this is going to happen. It's about money. You know, I don't care if the money comes from the moon. It's about money. And now you've seen the PGA Tour make adjustments. So let me start out. I got to go back to the way we used to do it with a song. And so the song I got, since we're going to talk basketball in the draft, is Sweet Georgia Brown. So you want a little history about it? Sweet Georgia Brown was composed in 1925 by Ben Burney and Maceo Pinkard. The lyrics were by Kenneth Casey. And here's a story behind it, which is kind of funny. Ben Burney met this Dr. George George Thompson Brown in New York City. And Dr. Brown was a state representative from Georgia. And his daughter was born on August 11th, 1911. And the Georgia General Assembly passed a declaration that she should be named after the state. So he named her Georgia Brown. And the lyrics of the song, if you go back and listen to it, in the lyrics, it says, Georgia claimed her, Georgia named her. And that's where the song came from. Well, fast forward in 1949, and it was redone by a group called Brother Bones and His Shadows. Okay.
That's a good name.
Yeah, you like Brother Bones. Well, the Harlem Globetrotters liked it so much that in 1952, they made it their theme song. So that's that. Brother Bones is the one we're all used to hearing. The original one was performed by the Roosevelt Hotel Orchestra out of New York City. So somehow I don't think it sounds like you're not seeing Meadowlark Lemon run down the court with that one. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, a little bit of history there, especially to know that Georgia Brown was actually a person, it was a young lady. Well, a young lady now, she'd be 111. So I guess.
Yeah, but sometimes you think it's just random, but to hear it's an actual person.
Yeah, here it's actually got a point. I got some trivia and stuff later on in a quote I'll give you, but
good tease on that trivia.
And the trivia, you're gonna like it, folks, because this trivia is I'll just throw out the trivia question right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Give me the year, the player, and the team for the first NBA draft. And the more specific you can be, the better. I'll just leave that out there. We'll come back to that one later. Billy will be cheating and looking on his phone, but we'll go from that.
Okay. Hands up.
So let's just finish out on the golf stuff. So
yeah,
the LIV Tour, which if for all you folks out there is the letters LIV, which is 54. So they play 54 holes. Yeah. So everybody.
I was wondering what that stood for. Okay. Yeah. Why didn't they make it more Roman numerally then?
I don't know, but that's the explanation. They play 54 holes without a cut. But it's interesting, to see these guys transfer over, and you knew there would be more shoes fall because of the money. Well, and the majors are going to let them play. The British Open just said, the RNA said they can play. They're not going to stop them from playing in the majors. That defeats their purpose. Why would they not want their star players to appear? So the majors will back away from the truck. And remember, you got the last one more major to go, and then you got next year. And by that time, the shoes will have all fallen as to the financials. But it was interesting that this week, the PGA Tour then, I don't know if you can't call it proactive, it's reactive. The PGA Tour has come along and is going to have 8 events, pay a lot more money. And I
didn't even hear about that. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're going to have 8 events next
That's
year.
Embarrassing. That is truly an embarrassing from a business negotiation standpoint. That is an embarrassing tactic. That is in admission. That is an act of admission that they were in the wrong.
Well, and they knew it was coming. They've known
for 2 years we've been hearing about this, and they haven't done anything.
They had no proactive plan in place, and so now they're going to do this. The top 50 in the world can compete. It'll be the same thing. That the money will be similar to what the guy won last week: $20 million, 4.5.
Oh, weird.
4.5 to the winner. This kind of thing, but. The point to that all is that it's after the fact. They're making these adjustments. The tours, this is like the ABA and the NBA and the XFL and the NFL. A lot of shoes are going to drop because of this. I'll be fascinated to follow it along. I think it's moved on from Saudi Arabian money. Oh, I know what I wanted to say too, was that the PGA Tour, I think you'll find folks now will cut Phil a little slack in that his point was they got a crap load of money. They just don't spend it on the tour. What are they doing with it? Putting it in their...
Phil just couldn't articulate his arguments.
Right. And so now I give power to Phil's argument in that what he's saying is, hey, they had all this money. They didn't have to always use sponsors' money. They could put some of their money back on the table and do this. And that's what he's brought to light. And I think they can come back. The problem is, the guys that are on the Golf Channel and stuff, they're mouthpieces for the tour. So they have a hard time being objective journalists.
Yep. And all this is related to the issues. Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be fascinating to follow. And Sports journalism, you hope that you still had some objectivity, but I'm not sure there's any objectivity.
So you can't, for me, for journalism, I have to read it. I don't care what anyone says on TV. TV is poison.
Yeah.
If it's not written, the libel and slander level is so much higher when you write something than when you just say it on cable news.
Right.
So for me, it has to be written, and it needs to come from an outlet like The Athletic that doesn't have any broadcasting responsibilities. Anything I read on ESPN, I'm very critical because I know their responsibilities. So the Golf Channel is literally a mouthpiece for the PGA Tour. And that's part of the issue, is that there hasn't been strong objective journalism. I think Eamon Lynch is probably one of the stronger ones out there for USA Today. And I read his column actually that he just put out there about Brooks Koepka, and it was a great takedown of, I'll get to the tour and stuff, but these guys that are going about it this way, they really are pieces of shit. Every single one of them. Like, I get that you want to get your money, but like Rory said, they all have plenty of money. They could have gone about this in a much more constructive way.
Yes.
To make a better situation than to go take money from a bunch of terrorists who flew a plane into one of our central buildings in New York City less than 20 years ago.
Yeah,
so these guys are, and Brooks Koepka, who likes to claim he's an athlete and who acts like he's too good to do anything besides a major because he's big athletic Brooks. For him to take the bag and go play a bunch of it's a bunch of has-beens, it's a bunch of young guys, and to just show up and collect his money, he is a coward. So I do want to make that very clear. But the PGA Tour is not innocent here at all.
No, but that all taken aside, that was kind of Brandel Chambly's point. But that taking aside, my point, my retort to that would be, well, you don't think David Tepper and 10 owners of that ilk could start up a riot? In fact, don't be surprised if Vince McMahon type of guy comes along now and does that, starts up a rival golf league.
So I think the difference is the NFL has these loyal fan bases.
Yeah.
And they have these TV contracts and they have so much objective journalism and conversation around it. And they've marketed their product extremely well. I think the barrier to, obviously, when you have unlimited money because you're a terrorist, none of those people you mentioned fit that category. But you'll never compete with unlimited terrorism funded money. But it's going to be pretty tough to topple any of these other leagues. The PGA Tour is ripe for the taking. And every employer loves independent contractors where you don't have to pay benefits. You don't have to treat them like employees. But you do tell them, hey, here's a set of tournaments where you have to come in and work. I mean, so they loved that for years. They took advantage of it. And now the tables have turned.
Yeah. Well, there's two things. The team idea, I'm not sure how that flies with golf because they've had it in tennis and it didn't really fly, although tennis wasn't quite as popular, but it used to be popular. And so
I think I just saw the point there that I was trying to make was like, I'm a Bears fan. People are Panthers fans. Like that's ingrained in you. That's not the case with professional golf at all.
No, but that
you pick a Tiger, you pick whoever your guy is of the time.
But that
and you could follow them if they move to another league. But like the Panthers aren't going to move to another league,
No, but that also makes Phil's point, what we just said. That makes Phil's point about what you just said, independent contractors. So they're running this whole show with all these independent contractors.
Not paying taxes, by the way.
Now they do have some system of 401k. I mean, like Tiger's 401k is like, $500 million or something. I mean, so every time you win, they put in money for you into a retirement setup. So they do have some of that. And I'm not privy to know, maybe they do have access to health care through an umbrella or something. I don't know, but you're right. That's something. It'll be interesting to see. It's gonna, I think it'll play out through the rest of this year. I don't think it makes a difference in the President's Cup, which is going to be in Charlotte. And because the only person I think is really affected there might be Sergio. Was always this is the world though. So Sergio wouldn't be available anyways. It's South Africans and Australians. So Oosthuizen and Charles Schwartzel and DJ. You know,
And that's what I don't get. DJ, I think he said, "Oh,
Kepka.
I want to grow the game. I want to grow the game." How the hell does this? This is bad for the game. If
Well,
you're a hardcore golf fan, all of a sudden, what tour am I watching?
well, yeah, but that's not DJ. That's more like DeChambeau's statement. DJ's they asked
Whichever
him,
one of those, they're all idiots. I put
yeah,
them
but I
all in
know,
the same
but
bucket.
DJ, they said, "What are you going to do with all this money? Or aren't you going to play?" He says, "I'm going to do whatever I want." And if you hear, that guy that does all the impressions on the internet, Connor or whatever, who's awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the golf guy.
Go,
That guy's great. Yeah,
and he does an imitation of DJ. He goes, I'll do whatever I want. I'm going to go fishing. Do I have to be in Saudi Arabia anytime soon? That's it. Sorry, DJ. I love you. Okay, well, let's switch over here while we're moving to the draft. So the NBA draft is tomorrow, which is June 23rd. It's at the Barclays Center in New York, I believe.
Brooklyn.
And it's going to be interesting to I listened to Jay Billis recently, just today, and he said that he was asked, he said, "Oh, I think this is a strong draft through 40 players." He says, I think you can get great players in the second round. They were going through the top picks, and it's interesting the names you came up with. But one of the things here locally is Charlotte does have 2 picks, an 11 and a 13. And
they're going to trade one of them. I would think it's going to be a crazy night of trades.
Well, I'm interested because one of the picks was a 7'2" guy out of Duke,
Mark Williams,
and that's who they need a rim protector, and they might go that way. But they were talking. The toss up is between Holmgren and Jabari Smith, and I think what their gut is that Jabari Smith will be number 1 to Orlando. Although Orlando loves big men, and they've taken some great ones. So,
and the betting markets have moved. So like a week ago, Jabari Smith was the heavy favorite to be first overall. Now it's closer to having Chet Holmgren up there. So yeah. I wouldn't say it's a sure thing. For me, obviously, I'm not a scout, all the caveats. Chet Holmgren is my guy of those top 4 guys. Because the only knock I ever hear anyone say on him is he's too skinny. But if you watched him play, that is a tough son of a gun. I mean,
well, and he's not a rim protector. He's a perimeter player that has size. And it was like Bill said today. I mean, you remember when Sean Bradley came out, and everybody looked at him, and he came out of Brigham Young, and he ended up being 7'6", I think, and he ended up being a really good NBA player. So
yeah, that's part of my bias is like Zion. Yeah, I used to work with Jerry V. He said back at Duke he has too much weight. He needs to lose weight. And there's other example, Greg Oden. Like the bigger, thicker guys, I mean, I'm grabbing anecdotal random ones, but I just don't feel like those age as well. Like I'd rather have the skinny guy.
Well, there's always those guys that come out with the knees that you just, Oden was the same thing. I think, believe it or not, I think that's what is going that way with New Orleans.
Yeah, with Zion. Yeah,
Zion. I think he's going to end up being a long-term bust. No different than Sam Bowie started it all, because he went ahead of some famous guy from North Carolina. I can't remember his name, but
some guy who couldn't close with the coach. We need to talk about that. That is so obviously poor form for Kenny Atkinson to back out of a contract, but that really looks bad on the Hornets.
Well, here's the deal with that. A couple things. One is, and don't let me forget about Scott Fowler's article this morning in the Charlotte News and Observer, and he's a wonderful writer, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
So we were talking about the coach, and I think you can say what you want, but I think it's just he likes living there. He's on a championship team. He got a ring. And I think that management has said behind the scenes that, Mr. Kerr might coach another year, probably maybe no more, and you'll be our coach if
Yeah,
you.
Kerr will move. Kerr was a GM in Phoenix, so Kerr
Yeah,
will move to GM, and
yeah,
then Atkinson will move to coach. That's what the Celtics
yeah.
just
So
did. It works
I mean,
well, but he
I,
would have known that after 3 or 4 conversations with the Hornets.
yeah, I think that was bogus. I think so. The article going to the North Carolina, Scott Fowler wrote that they should hire um, uh, Dawn Staley from South Carolina, who's all the success, and she's, got all the things. She's coached Olympics, coached women, national championships, and all that, and she'd break a barrier. And yes and no. I think she's done everything for women's basketball and college sports, helped elevate it, just like Gino. And I don't think that a woman has to break the men's barrier for coaching. I mean,
Well, I think the first one for it to be credible and to work has to come up through the NBA. So Becky Hammond for years has been the one they've identified. I don't know if it will ever be her.
Right.
But I think that she's already clearly demonstrated she had the respect of like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Greg Popovich. Right. So clearly she's going to be an effective coach of someone. So I think that's got to be the path. I like Scott Fowler's idea there. And certainly Dawn's a Hall of Famer, one of the best college basketball coaches ever. But I think that's a mighty big leap from women's college basketball to the NBA.
I agree. I think it's more likely that they bring in D'Antoni under the guise that, okay, you've also Joe Schmo, this great defensive mind from so-and-so.
That's what I'm worried about. It's not D'Antoni. It's the rumored guy who's coming with him, who's a guy by the name of Jim Boylan, who was most recently with the Chicago Bulls until he got fired. And he is not who you want on your bench. He comes from a different era of basketball. He literally put a punch clock into the Bulls locker room because he wanted his players to act like it was a factory, and he wanted to see who the last one was to leave. So you don't want Jim Boylan. If Mike D'Antoni comes in, that's fine. Hire a defensive guy. Just make sure, Michael, it's not Jim Boylan.
Well, here's my take. If D'Antoni comes in, it's good. It's good for LaMelo Ball. If they get a good big man, to give him some defense and go with what they've got and not really trade away the farm, I'm fine. Now, if they want to trade a draft pick and send Gordon Hayward somewhere with a draft, one of those draft picks. The other argument for the Charlotte Hornets is that they might trade the picks up to get the kid out of Purdue.
Jaden Ivey, that would be fantastic.
Because from everything I read in here is he may be the superstar. He's like a Ja Morant, and
there's going to be a bidding war because he's going to go 4. Sacramento's going to trade that pick. They already have 2 point guards. Yeah. So you're going to be competing with a lot of teams. But I will say I disagree. So for me, the biggest priority of the Hornets is get Gordon Hayward the hell out of here. If you go back to my Twitter account at LBill Sports 2 years ago when the Hornets signed Hayward, I said this is a terrible idea because he's perpetually injured and he's broken. Sure enough, that's all that's happened during the 2 years he's been here. Well, as he's been hurt. Now there's 2 more years on that deal. I want him out of here so bad, I'm willing to trade him for some combination where Russell Westbrook and his $47 million is on the Hornets books. He would never play a game here. You would never pair him with LaMelo. He would never be on the team. You would just release him. But I would take that $47 million hit of Russell Westbrook this year just to get off of Hayward and move on.
I think if you take that tack, they're more likely to just buy him out.
Yeah, I think the best way for the salary cap would be
like John Wall opted in at $38 million. Well, they're not going to sign and play him, so they're going to say, here's $28 million, $30 million, take a hike, whatever.
Well, the NBA, I won't get into the NBA salary cap is quite complicated, but that $47 million Russell Westbrook contract expiring, that's an asset. That's something you want to keep on your books. Because then they could go out and maybe DeAndre Ayton might want to get traded from Phoenix, Rudy Gobert from Utah. That gives you more options. But getting rid of Gordon Hayward, who still has 2 years, that to me is the priority. That guy's a bum.
By the way, you haven't even spoken about Keegan Murray.
Yeah, Keegan Murray should go 5, or yeah, he'll go 5.
Yeah, well, they got
He's a
him.
top
Well,
5 player.
well, it's interesting, and I'm not bad mouthing because he's a Duke player, but Paolo, I saw him and he's a good player. He's got a NBA body, but I know he's going to go in the top 3, but I'm not sold that he's an NBA superstar. I think he's a good player that will put him in the right place. I just don't know. I don't know. That's just my gut from having seen him this year. Now, Jaden Ivey, the only time I saw him is he ate University of North Carolina's lunch early in the year.
He's a great player.
That was before they even gelled or knew what the heck they were doing anyways. Yeah, it was kind of interesting because on Chet Holmgren, just to throw a little thing out there, is he's got the possibility to be a generational kind of big guy. His wingspan is 7'6". There aren't many, even though he's 7 foot, and there are not many that got that wingspan, you know, and he, like you said, he's tough. I kind of like
can shoot. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. He reminds me of the kid in Dallas. So
he'd be my number 1. Boncaro, I think the biggest thing that I like about him is his passing, where it's almost like a poor man's Nikola Jokic. That's where I see him. That's why they're going for his upside. And also, anytime you see a big guy that is a good free throw shooter, the NBA assumes with their coaching, practice, and strength training, they can extend that out to the 3-point line and make him a reliable 3-point shooter. So anytime you see a big guy in college that's good at free throws, the NBA thinks they can get him good at threes too.
And here's one that got exposure in the tournament, and I know I'm a homer, but Brady Manick out of North Carolina, who came via Oklahoma, I think he's got a future in the NBA because he's 6'11", he's tough, and he can shoot a 3. Somebody will give him in the second.
He'll be around. He'll be around. He can rebound. And by the way, how about that pickup for North Carolina getting Larry Nance's son, not Larry Nance Jr., but Pete Nance? That's the big transfer. I can't even remember where he was playing.
Northwestern.
Oh, yeah, Northwestern. Yep. Yeah. So you remember Larry Nance played for the Cavaliers in the 80s.
Yeah, no, I remember Larry Nance.
Pete Nance was a big time. He's better than Brady Manick. So I think Carolina is going to be number 1 in the preseason poll.
Everybody came back because they felt like they gelled and they thought they had a shot. And I think they do. I mean, they'll be, yeah. Hey, I got another trivia, which I forgot to throw out there. So,
well, I have the answer to the first one, I think.
Well, no, wait. I got to get another one. The Harlem Globetrotters had 1 loss.
Oh.
In 7,000 games. Can you name the year and the city? No way. There is no way. No, you don't know this.
1983, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
There, I like your guess. It was Martin, Tennessee, 1971. And they lost to a combo team of the Washington Generals, which is the only team I ever remember they ever played, and the New York Reds. And it was a combo of those teams, and they beat them 199. And Meadowlark Lemon said, or Curly Neal, a couple of players at that time, said, we were just having a good time playing in the crowd, and all of a sudden we looked up and realized we were down 20. So we started working to come back, and we ran out of time, and we got beat. He said, stuff happens, you know, we lost 1 game in 7,000. So what? So I thought that was kind of fun. So
that's awesome.
So you got an answer to the other one?
Yeah, I do. It's Lou Alcindor, Milwaukee Bucks.
No, wait a second. What was the question? That's the first. Are you answering the NBA draft question?
Yeah, the first player taken in the first NBA draft.
Well,
I'm guessing they didn't have a draft before that.
Man, you're not even close. You're off.
Is it Elgin Baylor, Minnesota Lakers?
You're only off by 2 decades or more.
Is it Pistol Pete Maravich?
No, sorry, that shows your age. The NBA draft was established. I'll give you right here. Let me look it up. It was established.
I really thought I had it right.
April 25th, 1950.
Wow.
And the first player was somebody that we all know and love, Chuck Scher. And Chuck was selected by the Boston Celtics.
Wow.
There were 121 selections and 12 rounds. There you go.
Chuck Scher. That's a good trivia one to know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I really thought I had it. I really did. I was like, I don't think they had a draft.
Yeah, well, no. As soon as you said Lou Alcindor, I go, well, heck, that was like 72. I mean, that was when I was in college. Give me a break. I mean, the NBA existed in the 60s. You do know that, you know. In fact, it existed in the 50s because you had Bob Cousy and Oscar Robertson and all those guys.
Yeah, I just thought they didn't do a draft. I thought they acquired players other ways. I don't know.
I don't know. They said, come on down. I guess that was the one I had. I had a great, those two great trivia questions. I have one quote for you. Before I go there, you got anything else you want to talk about, Billy, or should we give him our quote?
Oh yeah, Keegan Murray. One thing on him, I actually think he's a little bit overrated. He's got some good defensive stats, but if you watched all the Iowa games, he was chasing those. Iowa didn't play good team defense, so Keegan was always trying to get those steals and rebounds to get on transition and get easy points. And oftentimes that led to easy buckets for the opponent. Well, so I actually think Keegan Murray, I mean, he can score. I'm not questioning that at all. Like he could put up 30 in the NBA, but his defense, I'm not a
well, that was the take on him. What I researched, he's 6'8", 215, and they said he's NBA ready like Paolo. I mean, they figure he'll step in and play right away. Is he going to the Hall of Fame? No, but he'd be a good, solid player off your bench.
And with NBA coaching, maybe that defense improves.
Maybe D'Antoni can step that up for him.
No Jim Boylan. No Jim Boylan. I will stop his car from the airport coming in.
So here's my quote. Now, since you already dated yourself on the draft, my quote is from a famous Globetrotter named Meadowlark Lemon. Do you know who that is?
I've heard the name.
Okay. So Meadowlark Lemon was the clown. Curly Nail through 25 years or whatever was the guy that spun the ball on his finger and did all that kind of stuff. Meadowlark Lemon was the guy that ran around with a bucket and threw water at you and it was all paper. And, you know, he was kind of
a jokester.
Yeah. And, back to when they did lose that one game, Curly Neal, the guy who was the real basketball wizard, said it was kind of sad because all the kids and their parents and all the crowd walked out crying because the Globetrotters weren't supposed to ever lose. and
kids were crying.
And the kids were devastated. So this is a good quote because it's actually a life quote. And he goes, definition of Meadowlark Lemon, the definition of a shot means spirit, health, opportunity, and teamwork. Trust your next shot. I like that.
Always be thinking of the next shot.
Always thinking of the next shot. Well, Billy, it was a pleasure. I'm glad we got back together. Got a beautiful sunset in the background there from over the Golden Gate Bridge. I think I'm in Sausalito, but actually,
I got to figure my background out. I don't know. There it is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to step. Well, you got a Quail Hollow thing there honoring the President's Cup, so we'll get into that in August or something. We'll talk about that.
I got Larry Johnson here, but unfortunately my son had a wrestling match between Larry Johnson and Greg Maddox, and Larry lost his feet.
I was going to say, Larry's developed diabetes and gone to the orthopedic surgeon or something. He's lost the ability to jump. I can see that. Well, everybody, we enjoyed having you on Picking and Putting. Liberty Bill and Dr. Z here. You can see us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, you name it. We're going to be out there promoting. And if you ever go to Pinehurst, North Carolina, and you want to go to a place called Pine Needles and Mid Pines rather than just the country club, because that's where you get Rost.
I got Ross real good on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a Donald Ross original. And they had the U.S. Women's Open there, and all the greens are domes. So even though they look real big, they're not, because your ball rolls off the sides and you commit Harry Carry. But other than that, it's a wonderful place to visit. And it still reeks of Mrs. Peggy Kirk Bell. Okay, everybody. Love seeing you. Love being with you. See you next time, Billy. Have a good night, and say hello to that little boy.
No Jim Boylan.
No Jim Boylan. That's our leaving tip. He says no Jim Boylan. Okay, out of here.